Hey everybody, alright, today we're going to go through the Season 19 is out now, so we're going to go through the artifact and all the mods. I'm going to give you my opinions, what I think is going to be good this season, maybe some things that might not really work or what might not be bad, and you can let me know your thoughts at the end. So let's get into it, let's get this artifact up here. So the artifact this year, or this season, is the Seraph Cipher. You get it through the first mission, just go through it, it's pretty easy, and you'll grab the artifact. Alright, first row, or first column, is all about the champion mods, as you probably already know. So we'll go through all the champion mods. I'm just going to go through each champion type, and what I think might be useful. Alright, so first is the unstoppable champions, right? So the unstoppable champions, we have the unstoppable hand cannon, and then we have the unstoppable grenade launcher. So unstoppable grenade launcher I think is going to be pretty good. So is hand cannon, though. I think there's some good choices there for some legendary hand cannons, like if you have the hand cannon for Vault of Glass, Fatebringer, or I think it's the Zalu's Bane, I think, from Kingsfall. Also another great choice there. Also, you do have down here, and the fourth column on the very bottom, we have low entropy superconductor mod. It only costs 1 energy, it's in your class item, and it is for stasis and arc melees, will stun unstopped champions. So I think that's also, I think we got some good choices here for unstop this season. You got your hand cannon, grenade, and then solar stasis and arc melees. Yeah, again, I think these are some good choices. I don't really, unfortunately, use the stasis melee for Titan. I'll use it every now and then, but it can be very inaccurate sometimes and kind of weird and awkward sometimes. But I think, stasis melee for Hunter, Warlock is going to be great, especially for Hunters. You can just throw out your little shuriken scythe thing and easily stun and unstop. That's pretty good. Arc melees as well. I mean, there's some really good unstop mods here. We got the hand cannon again, grenade launcher, and these two melees. Let's move on to Overload. Overload, you got your scout, you got the auto and the SMG mod in the bottom, and we also have void and stasis grenades. Again, I think we have some good overload options. I'm not a fan of Overload Scout. I just don't use scouts that much, I guess. So I have like a good Bad Omens and Trusty, I guess, could be pretty good. But I think your better choice for overloads is probably going to be with either auto SMG and especially the grenades. But to each their own. If you like using scouts, feel free to put that on. Void and stasis grenades, though, I think are going to be really, really good for overload. Especially stasis grenades. You throw on a dusk field grenade and you throw it on one of those overload captains. You're gonna freeze them and mess them up with the overload stunning, which may actually probably cause some problems because I've seen some champions bug out when you freeze them. So we'll see how that works. But I think void grenades are gonna be great too as well. So I kind of like the options here for overload. Personally, if I need overload in a like Grandmaster or raid, I'm probably going to put on Le Monarch or Divinity, but I think if I'm going to run like Barrier Overload, I think using a auto rifle, Void Grenade, or Stasis Grenade would be a pretty good option. Alright, next we got the barriers. So you have the bow and pulse rifle for barriers. So bow and pulse, that's it for barriers. I don't think that's too bad. I think I wish maybe we had a little bit more option here. But barrier bow, that's not a bad option. You have some good legendary bows you can throw that on. Maybe even some exotics too, you can throw it on there. Of course you have Wish Ender that has anti-barrier built in the bow now, if you didn't know. And pulse anti-barrier, I think that's a good choice. We have some really, really, really good pulses now. Especially because we got 2 aggressive 4-round burst pulses this season. So make sure you get some of those. I think the pulse rifle is going to be really, really good for anti-barrier. But of course, you have your exotics also with barrier, like Arbalist, that everyone's probably going to use anyways. If there's overload and barrier or unstop barrier, people are going to probably run, I think, most of the time, Arbalist or Wish Ender. But again, I don't think it's that bad this season. All right, and we'll just move into column 2 and 3 here. So go through, you got your usual holster mod, you got grenade holster, hand cannon targeting, bow dexterity, pulse rifle loader, Those are your basic weapon mods there. So feel free to use any of those. And then you have your 2 mods that are going to enhance your origin traits. So you got the Bray origin trait 1 here. You got the Tex Mechanica Vice 1 here. So some good options there if you like using those type of weapons. What interests me most is these 2 mods down here. So we have a resilience mod and we have a mobility mod. So mobility +5, resilience +5. And you're probably thinking, like, why would I run this mod, right? When I could just put +10 resilience on for 3 energy costs. Well, I think that's pretty much where either you're going to want to put it in a Artifice mod slot for Artifice Armor. If you don't know, you get Artifice Armor from Master Dungeon runs. But I think this is a interesting choice because you could probably potentially put a ton of resilience in your chest piece there, instead of having it spread out among different armor pieces. Same thing with the mobility. If you're a mobility kind of person, you like high mobility, maybe you play a lot of PvP. Again, this is another option you can do, so you can put a lot of mobility into your legs and use your other armors for other mods. You know, like handling and reloader and stuff like that. So we'll see. There might be some interesting builds there. Maybe I'll just throw all my resilience on my chest as a Titan, and then it'll kind of free up my other mod slots, my other armor. So not too bad. It's a little expensive at 4, but we'll see how that works. Might use it, might not. We'll see. Energy Diffusion Substrate is the resilience mod this season. In past seasons, we usually always get like a energy type resistance mod. Usually it's like Void Solar or Arc Solar or whatever. This season, however, they kind of changed it up a bit. So now it's all 3 energy types resistance, but additional copies of this mod increases the effect. Not really too sure how much of an effect additional copies will be, so we'll have to kind of test that and see how that works. But I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you could potentially put 2 copies of this on because they only cost 1 each, right? And then if you have a Artifice Armor piece, you can put a 3rd one on, so you can have a 3rd copy on even too. So we'll see how that works. Going into column 4 here, like I mentioned before, we got your Unstop Grenade Launcher, and then you have your 2 other champion mods down here. So in between those, we have, of course, the Counter Charge. I think you've seen this before. If you stun a champion, you become Charged with Light. Pretty simple. So if you like Charged with Light builds, this would be pretty good. And Advanced Scout. I really like Advanced Scout. I think it is going to work pretty well. So it's on your class item. It only costs 1 energy. But every time you stun a champion, that champion that you stunned will take additional damage from your teammates. So that's going to be very useful. The fact that it only costs 1 energy on the class item allows you to combo some of these other big mods along with this. So I think I'm definitely going to use that mod for, you know, Grandmaster content, maybe some master raids, or even the new dungeon that comes out, if they have a master version of that. So we'll see. I think that'll be pretty good. And the last column, of course. So before I get into the last column, I do want to mention, and I'll try to put it on screen here, there was a tweet from Bungie Help today, as of this recording, December 6th, that they did say that there is an issue where some of these seasonal artifact mods can only be equipped in the extra mod slot of Artifice Armor. So as of today, we're working on a fix. Probably, I'm guessing that's a pretty big deal, so I'm guessing probably sometime this week or next week we'll get that fix in from Bungie. So until then, if you've already kind of grinded out your artifact, you might be having issues with it. So hopefully they fix that up, and I'm pretty sure they will. They're always usually pretty good with that. All right, well, but moving on to this last column here. So these are where all the juicy mods are at. And they're all in your class item, and they're all pretty expensive, except for the last one, but we'll get into that. So your first mod, you got 6 energy costs on Passive Aggressive Guard. This is you're receiving less damage if you are close near enemies and you are wielding a glaive. So, you know, if you like glaives, you use them all the time, and you have a glaive build, this is going to be pretty good for you. I think it's not going to be super popular. Unfortunately, I don't really think we have any other... Yeah, there's no really any other glaive mods here in this artifact that you can kind of combine with it. Maybe if you want to use this with... man, you know, with monochromatic, well, you can't even do that because they're both 6, so that's a little 12. So it's really hard to, I really like this mod in my opinion because there's really nothing else I can really do with it besides throw it on and hope that the less damage that says you get is enough to protect me to just kind of full send it into a group of enemies. But might just play around with it. We'll see how it works. I would have loved to have a glaive champion mod this season to go along with this, like a unstoppable glaive like we had last year. So we'll see if it's going to be useful or not. I'm going to say not many people probably are going to use it because of the other mods in this column. So the other mods, we got weaken clear. So weaken clear, it costs for 5 on your class item, of course. And it's when you use a grenade launcher, you damage a boss, a champion, or you break somebody's shield. It reloads all your stowed weapons and it weakens that combatant. This is great. If you remember, like a couple years ago, you're playing Destiny. Back then, we had like a artifact mod called Breach and Clear, I believe it was called. And it was like a debuff grenade launcher mod. So it's kind of similar to that. I think it's even better because now it reloads your weapons, which is great. But you can combo that with your unstoppable grenade launcher. You can combo that. We can clear with advanced scout here. So there's a lot of good options for grenade launchers. First thing I think of is Anarchy. Anarchy is going to do some great damage. Or the many wave frame GLs we now have in the game. They're going to be very useful. Very, very useful. And the weaken clear, it actually does a 15% weakens the combatants. So that's a pretty big debuff, 15%. Now that matches Divinity, because Divinity was at 30%. Now Divinity's back down to 15% debuff. So theoretically, you don't even really need Divinity. If you have a boss with a big crit spot on it, you're gonna probably just hit him with a grenade launcher and you're good. He's debuffed 15%. You don't even need Divinity. So, some cases I think this would be great. You could just tag somebody with Anarchy bolts and boom, he's weakened 15%. Also reloads your ammo, so you can just tag him with some Anarchy, swap to a sniper, or you can just use a special grenade launcher. Maybe use a wave frame, blinding GL, whatever, and get a nice quick 15% debuff on that enemy. So that'd be very, very useful. Can't wait to use that. The middle mod, you got Monochromatic Maestro. And Monochromatic Maestro is 10% damage bonus. So, reading through it, dealing damage with elemental abilities grants increased damage to weapons of the same element for a short duration. And it's the same thing on the other side. So, dealing damage with elemental weapons grants increased damage to abilities of the same element. So, for example, you throw a Void Grenade at the boss, hits the boss, you do now additional damage with your Void weapons. And vice versa. If you damage the boss with a Void weapon, your Void elemental abilities are now going to do additional damage. And for people who want to know, Monochromatic is a 10%, like I said before, it's a 10% buff to your damage. So again, this is just like Weaken Clear from before. It's only 10%, not 15, like Weaken Clears. But with Monochromatic, it's a buff, not a debuff. So you can technically have somebody just weaken the boss, and then everybody else can use Monochromatic and get extra 10% damage. Again, this make this with advanced scout here, maybe some unstopped grenade launcher. It's gonna be great. We're gonna be doing so much extra damage, and also Monochromatic here does stack with other buffs. There's no stacking restrictions here. So that means you can put this on, you're doing an extra 10% damage. And then you can also be inside a Will of Radiance and get that Will of Radiance buff as well. So we got some really, really good options for damage here. And then we move into the next mod, that's Solo Operative. Now this mod, I think, is really for our PvP people here. So Trials players, this is going to be probably really interesting to you. While you are the only member of your fire team, you do increased damage to all combatants. That's going to be pretty insane during Trials. Not just because it does increased damage, but because it is a 15% increase in your damage. 15%. And this mod also stacks with other buffs. So I'm going to be super afraid if I'm playing PvP, and if I ever touch Trials, I haven't touched it in a long time, but if I'm a last alive and I'm facing an enemy and he's a hunter, and he's going to probably rock Solo Operative, get that 15% damage buff, and if he's a Solar Hunter, he can use Radiance, give him an extra 10%, he's 25% 5% extra damage on me, I'm going to get absolutely wasted. So we'll see. We'll see. I think this would be good for PvP players. Raids and stuff, I don't think too much. I mean, if you're the last person alive in a raid, there's a good chance things have gone not great for your team, so it's probably a wipe. But who knows? Who knows? But I think mostly it's going to be for PvP. And the final mod, Lucent Finisher. Lucent Finisher, thank God we got this mod this season. I'm so happy for this mod. Lucent Finisher, 3 energy. If you use a finisher on a Lucent Hive Lightbearer or a champion, it will spawn heavy ammo for you and your allies. Thank God. I have been waiting for some kind of mod like this. We've had mods like the heavy ammo finisher in the before, but then that kind of went away. It wasn't in the artifact anymore. And we had to use Aeons, the exotic Aeons, to get some heavy ammo. So now, thank God, we got this mod back. And the best part about this mod is that it only costs 3 energy, which means you can combo Lucent Finisher with Monochromatic, with Weaken Clear, with Solo Operative. Heck, you could run Lucent Finisher, Weaken Clear, and Advanced Scout, and still have room to put on a stat mod like extra 5 resilience, extra 5 mobility, or whatever. This is great. You know, this is awesome. So those are your mods for Season 19. I'm really excited for these mods. I think they're pretty good. I think for terms of champion mods, we got a good list here. I think it'll be a pretty good season. Looks like grenade launchers are back on the table. So I gotta bust out that Anarchy, level it up, and just find some good special grenade launchers to use here too as well. But let me know in the comments, or hit me up on Twitter. Just let me know what you think you're going to use these mods for. If you got like a special build in mind that you're thinking like, hey, maybe you are going to use glaives and you have a crazy build for that. Or, maybe you have a good charge with light build you want to use for this. Or maybe these origin traits or these resilience mods, the mods down here. Let me know in the comments. What do you like? So that's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.